ethical relativism is different from ethics, right? So that is what these are all schools at which we see good or bad. Okay, see, we haven't even decided what ethics is, right? Hypothetically, if this is ethics, okay, we want to arrive at this destination. I am using utilitarianism as a lens. So if I take the road of Bentham, okay, am I going to land at ethics? Sometimes there is wrong in her island, eating ice cream is wrong in her island. So where do we arrive at? It's a very simple way to understand, right? Relativisms are not rational, not logical. Okay, sometimes you justify the wrong things. For example, sati. Yes. Again, please understand, not all ethical relativisms are not ethical. They can be ethical also. For example, love and compassion in one society can also be there in another society. So in almost all societies, children are taken care. Yes or no? Compassion is a common ground in almost all societies. So by taking that one common ground, can we call compassion as a universal ethical standard? Humanity. Yes or no? If you have seen that movie 300 Sparta, if the child is like not totally fit, okay, he is killed in the first day itself. Like infanticide is being practiced in Sparta. But you don't see that in any society nowadays. Yes or no? So for them it is right, because they are a warrior clan, they want only the fit to survive. Yes, all relativisms are having some loopholes. They are not wrong, they are having loopholes. That is why we couldn't clearly take global consensus, right? For example, let's say human life is sacrosanct, but all the countries in the world did not abolish capital punishment. But we try to go for global consensus, removal of consensus. Nuclear weapons, we know that nuclear weapons are dangerous. We are trying to build a consensus. But Pakistan fears India, India fears Pakistan, Pakistan and India fear China, China fears India. So how will you solve that interlinking? Yes or no? It's a very, very difficult proposition. Again, remember, ethics are more like a guiding light. Nobody actually follows them. Everybody strives to achieve them. So if you see the concept of Ramayana, Maryada Purushottam, Rama is an ideal. Rama is incarnation of dharma itself, right? Yes or no? So what is the standard he has set? By following dharma in every walk of his life, from starting to the end, right? So how many Ramas are there in the society today? Probably none. But everybody has an ideal that this is where I have to reach. So that is what ideals are. Yes or no? So dharma is an ethical concept. Dharma is setting what? You are here, you are fallen. Okay, or you don't have an idea how to behave, how to be a good person. For example, Rama has a very good quality called as Pradama Bhashi. That means the moment you see Rama, he will be the first person who talks to you. For example, good morning. Yes or no? Or hi. So Rama will be the first Pradama Bhashi. So what is the trait that you have to adapt from him? Whenever you see someone, wish him. Yes, but when we go to festivals or marriages, when we see relatives, you turn left, he will turn right. He didn't wish me. Yes or no? When Rama himself doesn't have ego and he is Pradama Bhashi, who are you? Yes or no? So by aligning ourselves with the highest ideal, our egos will fade away. Yes or no? But when we don't have anything, but we still have ego, then nobody can save you. Yes or no? So that is what ethics is, like ideals are all about. They are not perfect. By emulating them, we will become better. That is the ultimate goal of human life, right? Okay. So yeah, again, as I told you, individual relativism or ethical relativism comes from many practices. Say for example, person A, B, C are there. For person A, paying tax is a good thing. For person B, I will pay taxes only when certain conditions are met. For person C, he will say taxes are bad. So relativism is a wrong concept. Why? If I give them the freedom to pay taxes according to their own whims and fancies, all B's and C's probably will never pay taxes. Only A's will pay taxes. but I have codified it into law. You have to pay tax. Not paying tax is a wrong thing. Then automatically you will do the correct thing. Right. Next, opposite to ethical relativism is ethical universalism. What is opposite to relativism? Universalism. So what is universalism? Simple and straightforward. Common values shared across the cultures and societies can be created into universal values. For example, United Nations Human Rights Declaration. United Nations Human Rights Declaration. It can be called as a universal standard. Yes or no? We may not follow it, but all of us collectively came together after the Second World War and created something called as United Nations Human Rights Doctrine. Yes. So if a fake encounter is there, we will look towards human rights doctrine. Yes or no? Any wrong in the society, for example, overcrowded prisons, we will look towards human rights prisons. Refugee issue, we will look towards universal human rights. So human right is an inalienable concept. Right to life with dignity is an inalienable concept. By Article 21, we have established it to the highest standards possible. Yes or no? Through the help of law, we have codified which is very ethical. Right to life with dignity. Article 21 is sacrosanct. So every time we are here, we have to work towards Article 21. Yes, clear? Yes. See again, sometimes it's not a wrong thing, but it's a personal choice. Individual conscience will be there. Yes, Melinda Gates is probably the richest woman on the planet, one of the richest women on the planet, right? Because of Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, right? But you don't see her wearing a jewelry from top to bottom. That's a cultural preference. Yes. So is it right or wrong? It doesn't have an ethical implication, right? It is not a moral implication. If she is purchasing blood diamonds or conflict diamonds, then that is something we can judge upon. Personal preferences are not, moral judgments. Be very clear about it. But you should not set it into a standard. Because I am not wearing, you should also not wear. That is not a right thing to do. Psychological egoism. So as I told you, psychological egoism, then ethical universalism. But the simple thing is, what is the first trait that you need to have a moral judgment? To think about others, right? Somebody should exist for you to even judge their own decision. But if you are totally selfish, you are not even capable of considering others and do something right or wrong for them. Yes, so we will simply see again, selfishness is not good standard for ethics. As long as you are selfish, you cannot be a good ethical person. For example, the other day I told you that officer, district educational officer, if he is selfish, if all he is worried about is his own job, then will he take care of the problem? No, he will take his salary and be happy with it. Next, ethical egoism. Simply understand, our baseline as a human being is selfishness. That is what Thomas Hobbes assumed. Okay, the baseline is selfishness. We are all animals. Yes or no? So there is a very famous saying, right? Remove God, remove heaven and hell, then we will know what true humans are. Yes or no? So the baseline for any human being is to be selfish, to be ruthless, to be aggressive. Alright, we came from nature, we have that ingrained qualities. But thanks to rules and laws we have developed, we have become something called as civilized. Yes or no? Only rules and laws will keep us civilized. Without rules and laws, there is no civilization. Rules and laws or whatever can be so many places. Religion, fear, the fear of the law, so many things. Now, because nobody is following the rules, all of us understand the pain. Yes or no? Let's say I have this phone, I was sleeping, somebody came and put a stone on my head and took the phone away. When he is sleeping, somebody will do the same to him. So everybody is scared to death. Then what will they do? They will come to some common consensus. Only because there was chaos, we came to standards. Without chaos, we will never develop standards. Yes. So every man for himself has led to development of rules and regulations. Yes or no? So out of this egoism, out of my own selfish interest, we created rules and regulation. You can actually apply it to Adam Smith laser sphere, right? Hand of God. Yes or no? Not hand of God. Invisible. Hand of God is Maradona. Okay. Invisible hand. Yeah. So invisible hand. What will happen in invisible hand? Every man is free to do his own business. So what happened if every man does his own business? Market is supposed to take care of itself. But we have seen in 2008 Lehman Brothers crash that if we leave everything to the markets, market will collectively destroy all of us. So after 2008, what happened? Basel norms have been strengthened, or more stringent measures have been taken by international governments, like all governments at every level. So they were more aware. So without Lehman Brothers 2008 economic crisis, we wouldn't have been more aware. Yes or no? So that is what ethical egoism is. If we give free hand to everyone, everybody tries to take care of himself, and in response, society is supposed to get better. But that is not the case. Simply put, Mother Teresa said a quote, right? If every person cleans his own home or house, okay, cities will get cleaner. Yes, in her sense, in mental state. If every person's mind is clean, automatically cities or countries will be clean. But what is cleanliness to us? Take the dust in front of our home, throw it in front of the house of the neighbor. Then what will happen? Everybody will do the same thing, then there won't be any order. That is why we have selected designated dustbins. Yes or no? Rules and regulations. So ethical egoism is a good thing to tell that if we fall to our baser instincts, we will always have problems. Okay, you can actually apply it to mob lynching. Yes, mob violence, communalism. So many places you can actually apply ethical egoism. If everybody thinks that he is thinking in the right sense and he knows everything, what will happen? Nobody will respect rules and laws and everything, right? For example, if somebody is taking a cow to some place, okay, you don't know whether he is going to kill it or for selling it. You assume he is doing something wrong. Then what happened? Mob violence will happen. Yes or no? Ethical egoism is supposed to be a doctrine to give you that freedom to pursue what you want, not to harm others. Yes? Again, don't worry, nobody is going to ask you any of these questions in the exam. But you need to know what all doesn't work. Relativisms don't work. I am chief minister's brother-in-law, so rules doesn't apply to me, or rules are very closer to me. That relativism doesn't work in the real life. The moment you bring in that relativism, you are destroying everything. Yesterday, utilitarianism, relativism I have brought, right? Doctor is my family member, so I have saved him. So I brought a relativism. So that is wrong. Not relativism. Yes. Clear? In the same way, moral relativism and moral objectivism. So what is moral relativism? Same thing, same, whatever we are discussing, the same. Any relativism means it will apply to me, or it is favorable to me, I will accept it. If it is not favorable to me, I won't accept it. But what is objectivism? It's like ethical universalism. It doesn't have that relativism. It is universal. Some things are wrong at all the times. You are stealing something, stealing is wrong. Yes or no? If you are doing something good, it is good for all the societies. You are saving a girl child from some torture. Irrespective of the moral standard of the society, for me morally it is a right thing to do. Yes or no? Moral subjectivism and moral relativism. So relativism and subjectivism can be used as synonyms. Alternatively, you can use them interchangeably. What happens? It doesn't work in the real life, right?
So can we apply this to international?
Everything, that is the problem, right? Every country is doing relative. Vaccination, vaccine nationalism is a relativism. Yes or no? Vaccine nationalism can be used as a relativism concept. So why is India not signing NPT? Relativism, right? For what I'm doing is morally correct. Yes or no? So cultural relativism also same thing. Culturally, I think that is correct. This is not wrong. For example, some communities have, considered, infanticide as a okay thing, or female genital mutilation as okay thing, or some cultures have, they don't have any limitations on premarital sex. Yes. So cultural relativism. What is good for one society may not be good for another society. The thing is, nobody is judging the other society. You cannot judge other society with your lens. Then that will lead to a lot of problems. But there is also a good thing about this. For example, if education and awareness are increasing throughout the world, what will happen? Till now, you are very rigid about these perspectives. For example, female genital mutilation is protected because of cultural relativism. I am not supposed to talk about your culture, her culture, or his culture. What will happen? Problems will be created. Now that universal values are increasing, cultural relatives will come down, and good cultural relative practices will be practiced by everyone. Say for example, in a village, every girl child who is born, a tree is planted. Some cultural practices are there, right? They can be adapted universally. Universal standards can be created. Are we clear? Remember, simple way to remember is this: objectivism is good, relativism and subjectivism is bad. Yes, but every society can have something good. That good has to be taken and made into a ethical standard. Right? Any questions? Yesterday, the planting of evidence case. Moral relativism. Is it moral relativism? Planting evidence is moral relativism? Sure.
For me, it looks good. For the other person, it doesn't look good. So.
Okay. Do you agree?
Like we are seeing it from our lens and we are judging the things, right? Moral comes from our.
My own personal. So according to you, it was correct. Like correct or wrong?
It is correct.
Okay, fine. Right. So it's a chain, right? Once you miss the link, it will be a lot of problems. So moral relativism has to be understood from that particular case study. Yesterday we have discussed evidence, planting of evidence. So she said it's not a problem. So her moral relativism is what? For the greater good, she was okay to take that particular decision, and there is nothing wrong or right in ethics. As I told you, the only thing is reasoning. What is the reason why you are doing certain things? Clear? Now remember this particular line. This is a question, 10 marker. When you are free, you write an answer to this particular line. In law, a man is guilty when he violates the rights of others. Very simple to understand. But in ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. We will discuss, don't worry, we will discuss the underlying principle behind that. Santosh? Sleepy? Had breakfast? What? You don't remember. Half an hour ago only. Then you're thinking about it. I'm thinking like you're thinking about which tiffin you had. Which breakfast? Puri. Good. Okay. Hostel food? Bite outside. Okay. Yes. All of you had breakfast, I hope. Yes. No puri. Yeah. Okay.
That means ethical relativism can never lead to ethical universalism. Can never.
They cannot coexist. When ethical relativism exists, ethical universalism cannot exist for the same standard. Some standards can become both, but not every standard can become universal. So ethical relativism and ethical universalism probably will overlap this much, but still there will be a realm of something which is outside ethical universalism and ethical relativism. So overlapping can happen. Compassion, caring of the children, caring of the elderly, and all these things happen. For example, Eskimos are famous to leave their senior citizens in the cold wind. It's a true story. It's not made up in Ocean's 11. It's a true story, by the way. So they leave them in the cold because Eskimos are nomads. Nomads travel in groups. If somebody is slowing them down, the chances of survival of the entire group also comes down. So according to Eskimos, ethical relativism is what? Leaving the old. But if you see ethical universalism, you have to take care of your own family members. Love, compassion, you cannot kill anyone. So those two things can never coexist unless you change the lifestyle pattern of Eskimos. Yes, the same way in Papua New Guinea, there is a tribe which kills the seniors. After a certain time, let's say you are 60, 70 or something like that, you fail to become a hunter, like you started slowing down, or you are injured, right, which will attract animal scent, and lot of problems will be created, and it's a burden to take care of you. They put an arrow in the heart of that particular person. So then what will happen? The tribe survives, and everybody knows it. It's not personal, right? They are not targeting you, like they will do it to the person who is doing it to you also. So ethical relativism and universalisms are two different things. For example, you understood, right? Like context based. But with more increase in knowledge, awareness, we can move away from ethical relativism to ethical universalism. Yes. Again, why till Eskimos take India only? As I said, if Rama is ethical universalism, okay, where do we actually stand as a society? No two families have same ethical values, right? Ethical relativism is again moral relativism. A family have a different standard, her family have a different standard, her family has a different standard, his family have a different standard. Then what will happen? Everybody is thinking that they are moving towards ethical universalism, but they are probably morally relativism. Yes or no? Okay, for me one thing is acceptable, other thing is not acceptable. For example, one of my friend in his community, okay, alcoholism is not seen as a wrong thing. If you go to parties, festivals, whenever they come together, they celebrate it through alcohol, right? But in the particular community, extramarital affair is seen as a taboo, like to the extreme lengths. Like they will literally banish you from the community to that extent. Yes, so both of them are ethically like wrong in a different community in altogether. Yes or no? So adultery is probably considered as unethical in most societies, but some societies doesn't even care about it. Yes, or we say patriarchy. Patriarchy is ethical relativism. Like we don't call it patriarchy, we call it respecting the elder. Respecting the eldest male is ethical relativism. Whenever I see the head of my family, I have to respect him. That is a moral value. But in India, we have matriarchal societies also. Yes or no? The Kerala and Northeast, we have matriarchy. So what is ethical or what is moral for one society is not ethical for another society. Again, using the term ethical will be a misnomer. Moral values, right? What is good? Again, the common theme is respecting someone can be universalized. Whether you respect the matriarch or the patriarch, the thing is respect. Respect is universal. Who is relative? Clear? Simple ways to remember. Always remember the examples. Once you remember the examples, it's very easy for you to understand. Are we sure? Clear? Now we will move on to Kant, the Kant categorical imperative. One thing I want you to remember is Kant is not something most people can digest, okay, or practice. So don't worry if you totally don't accept or understand it. Again, as I told you, you don't probably use his ideology much, but you have to appreciate his level of thinking. Now, yesterday we have discussed about consequentialism. What is consequentialism? It's about consequences, output. For Kant, thinking is everything. If I am doing something with the right intention, that is the most important thing. Even if the consequence is wrong, even if the consequence is negative, I am totally okay with it. Do you remember the example? Somebody is hiding in your home, right? The person knocks your door and he asks you, is he hiding there? I want to kill him. Normally human tendency is to lie, but Kant says don't lie. That is why this theory is also known as absolutism. Lying is wrong, and lying is wrong in all circumstances. There is no if and but and terms and conditions. That is Kant for you. Okay, under no circumstance whatsoever there is relativism. You cannot adapt to a particular situation, right? Moral relativism is not accepted in Kant. Lying is wrong, you don't have to lie. Okay, but again remember, any action is good or bad according to Kant because of his principles, not your principles. You don't have to see from his standards. For you, saving that child might be important. Yes or no? A 3-year-old kid, you cannot let a 3-year-old be killed because you don't want to lie. How many people will you find in the entire planet like that? Right? So it's a very difficult thing to follow. So that is why absolutism, absolute, like zero scope for negotiation. Lying is wrong, never lie. That's it. Okay. So we can always bring in religious doctrines, right? If you lie, your head will explode into 1,000 pieces. Yes or no? Vikram Betal. Yes, Vikram Betal stories. What will happen? He will ask you so many stories. So you have to tell them. Even after knowing the answer, if you don't tell him, head will explode. So we have a lot of things. Now, again, I don't want to go into the technical details of the entire Kantism. You can read them, but simply understand this. The most important thing for Kant is deontology. That means duty or obligation. If you have to do something, do it perfectly or don't do it at all. Yes or no? So you have a duty, you have a obligation, and it has to be done perfectly. So how does he arrive at that particular understandings? We will come back. First of all, understand the meaning of the term imperative. Categorical imperative, that is the term you hear in Kant. So first of all, what is imperative? Imperative is a rule, principle or need that requires one or compels certain actions. Okay, that means you have to do something, you have to do it. There is no other option. He defines them into two things. For example, a hypothetical imperative. What is a hypothetical imperative? Imperative means a rule or a principle. Yes. So if you want to clear prelims, you have to work for 8 hours a day. That is hypothetical imperative. If everybody wants to praise you, what do? You get a tattoo, you go to the gym for 6 hours, get 6 packs. Yes, or try to look as beautiful as you can, or buy a car. Yes or no? You do all kind of things. Why? To get X, you need to do Y. If everybody has to respect you, you have to do things that deserves your respect. So it's like rule of thumbs, right? To get good scores in your school, what will you do? You have to study not only Hanuman Chalisa but also subject books. Okay, sir, I am praying daily for 5 hours. Okay, so then also punya will increase, definitely, there is no doubt about it. Yes or no? But scores may or may not. But unfortunately, we read only for 5 hours a day, like including Hanuman Chalisa. Then, what about categorical imperative? Categorical imperative is a unconditional rule or duty. If I say write a test, it's your duty to write a test, no ifs and buts. Yes or no? Sir, the neighbor's dog died. Okay, I was drinking water, water fell on the paper. Okay, I told you it's your duty. Yes or no? You have to do it perfectly without ifs and buts. Okay, so that is difference between hypothetical imperative and categorical imperative. One important thing you have to remember is Kant is a critic of utilitarianism. So Kant came with his own version of the ethical standards by criticizing utilitarianism. Yes, so that is why he chose absolutism. Okay, but absolutism is also wrong. It cannot be perfect. For example, you are a police officer. You are a police officer. You are doing something just like the fake evidence case. Yes or no? So your duty is to arrest the criminal. Yes or no? Not lying. Lying is never a duty. So you will never do that. So the case of putting a fake evidence doesn't even arise. You have to do your duty in the perfect sense of the term. If you are able to show him that yes, he has committed a crime, he will be arrested. But you have arrested him with shoddy evidence, like 50-50 evidence. The judge may take a positive call or a negative call, but it is up to the judge. You have nothing to do with the consequence. You are willing to let the criminal walk, but not at the cost of your own duty or obligation. You can see the contrast between utilitarianism and Kant. Yes or no? That means yesterday we were saying no matter what, he should be punished to the cost of putting fake evidence. But today we are saying Kant says nothing doing. Duty is duty. Okay. Now, so why should I listen to Kant? He says actually 3 things, but the most important thing is these are called as maxims, 1, 2, 3 maxims, but this is a golden rule. Do unto others what you would not have done to them, right? That means you don't want to do anything that others want to do to you. Golden rule, right? So if you are the person who is being accused, if somebody files a fake evidence, will you be happy? No, right? So Kant says if you follow this rule and if the answer is no, you won't do it. If you are the murderer and the police officer is following his duty without following his fake evidence, then will you be happy? Yes. Why? You have a high chance of escaping the law. So golden rule is brought into the picture by Kant. Again, please remember, Kant did not introduce the golden rule. It is a religious doctrine. It's from the Bible. Okay. Are we clear? Now, this has n number of loopholes. The most common example given is vegetarianism. Yes or no? You prefer non-veg, I prefer veg. Yes? So because I prefer veg, I only will give you veg dishes. So I am suppressing your needs or your interests. Yes or no? So will the non-vegetarian be happy that if I show him the vegetarianism? Imagine you are a non-vegetarian, okay? I am not giving you a choice. Will you be happy with that? No, right? So don't do to others what you don't want to be done to you. So this theory has lot of loopholes. Okay. Then he introduced one more maxim. That is, maxim of your action were to be true, you will become a universal law. If you do something, if you plant a fake evidence, it will become universal law. Will you be happy with that? Obviously, everybody can see through this, right? There are a lot of loopholes. For example, if you say stealing is okay because my wife is having some issues, she needs a platinum chain. Okay, then what will happen? There will be no Kalyan Jewelers. Everybody will be the thieves and robbers, right? Yes or no? The simple thing, lying, deceiving, anything, right? So if you deceive, will you be happy to be deceived? You cannot make it into universal law or a golden rule. Then he came with a second maxim. Second maxim is always treat humans as a means, not as an end. Treat human beings as an end. As an end, not as means. Don't treat human beings as a means. Don't use them. When you don't use human beings, they will be happy. I will tell you a simple example. Let's say you don't know maths. Okay, Santosh is very good in maths. Okay, then suddenly next day you come to Santosh with a tiffin box. Why? He is not having good tiffin in the road, so you brought a new good tiffin cooked in the home, yes, or purchased from a very luxurious hotel. Santosh has eaten it. Then you slowly start Santosh, yes, right? Yes or no? There is this Telugu movie. What? నువ్వు వస్తానంటే నేను వద్దంటాను. Yes, exactly. So there is a line, right? Santosh. Okay, so Santosh doesn't be happy, or he won't be happy to be used, right? He may not notice it. He is very innocent and a good fellow. Okay, he doesn't see the deceiving, but you are actually deceiving him, right? So you can call it as friendship also. For the society purposes. Okay. Mutual. So Santosh never will bring you tiffin box. Then he is a good person. So again, the concept is never use human beings as a means, not to an end. Okay, they have their own choices. If I lie to him, I am taking away his autonomy. Yes or no? If you directly ask him, Santosh, I want to learn maths. Okay, he has absolute choice to take a decision to help you or not to help you. But by lying to him, deceiving him, manipulating him, you have altered the equation. Yes or no?
So in case he accepts to teach you, that still is a means, right?
Voluntary. He has his choice, right? I am not deceiving him. I am treating his dignity. I am giving him his choice. Deceiving and getting something done, and he himself voluntary. That is what I have written, right? You can use another person as a means, but not merely as a means. For example, you are learning ethics through me. I am teaching you out of my free will. Okay, but not merely as a means. You don't see me only as a ethics teacher, right? You don't have a vested interest like this is my means. I am doing something to manipulate him, right? For example, if you take your boss, he is paying you salary. In that sense also he is using as a means, but that is not wrong. Why? My goal is to teach. My passion is to teach ethics. My passion is to teaching. So I am also achieving my goal. You are also achieving your goal through me. So both of us are happy. So as an employee, you are happy to maximize your salary and take care of your family. So boss is using you as a means to achieve his own happiness. You are also using boss to achieve his happiness in a sense, right? But if I don't do anything, for example, bonded labor is a means. Clear? See, Kant uses very wild examples to justify all these things, but for a simple understanding sake, remember, human beings should not be treated as a means. They should not be deceived. They should not be misused. Okay, and for example, taxing of rich is there. Rich are being used as a means by the government to support the poor. That is not a wrong thing, right? But according to Kant, it is immoral. See, again, taxing of rich, forget about rich, taxing of any person. If you are making 10 lakh rupees per annum in India, you are good, better than the most. Yes or no? So taxing you and helping the poor is not a wrong thing, because society cannot survive without taxation. So according to this principle, this will be a wrong thing. So that is why Kant has brought in one more rule or one more maxim. That maxim is act according to law, so that it operates in the realm of ends. don't get confused. The simplest thing is this: do anything that is good for the society, it is moral.
Lastly, saying about utilitarian.
For the society, not maximization. If here the moral value is your choice. If you are throwing, let's say, beer bottles on the middle of the road, then you are not helping the society. Yes or no? But that is a morally wrong thing. So you are making a choice, right? I hope you understand very simply the Kant's 3 rule. First is, don't do to others what you don't want to do to yourself. That is not a maxim, that is a golden rule. Maxim is universality. That means if you do anything, will it become universal and you are still okay with the consequence? Do it. No, don't do it. Sir, I told you to write a test. Yes? You said something happened. That is an excuse. So will you be happy when the next time I give you an excuse? No, right? Next time when you come to me, I will say I am busy. You don't know it's true or false, right? Then nobody is happy, right? This, don't use people as means. Then the last one is, do anything that is good for the society. Here, did anyone observe this and rule utilitarianism are more or less same? What does rule utilitarianism say? If it has a chance of universality, will you still do it? Only then it is moral. So Kant is also saying the same thing. So then how is utilitarianism and Kant is different? So this is what is rule utilitarianism is. It's a consequences. Majority of the people are following certain rule that is immoral, which would be negative.
So, and by following utilitarianism, there is scope for doing some negative things to maybe some little minority section of people, maybe few number of people. But in Kant, it is also not accepted. Though it promotes majority, happiness for majority, it's not acceptable.
In Kant.
It's, the first maxim says.
Okay. No. Okay, fine. Yes.
So what I feel from this is rule utilitarianism. It applies to the group of people, whereas Kant's logic is like for an individual, which will enhance to the entire society. Top-down and bottom-up.
In one way, yes. Here, the rule utilitarianism is more bothered about maximization of the happiness of the society. There, Kant is not bothered about happiness. He is more bothered about the direction of the society. Good, do good, like moral. Okay, it may lead to moral things. Kant is not bothered about consequence. Remember, if you die because you didn't lie, still Kant is happy with that. But in utilitarianism, if you lie, it's okay to keep people happy. If you don't lie, if people are happy, that is also okay. So happiness is more important rather than individual choice. Sorry? A difference between ends and means, but both of them want good things. Good moral society is to be created. That is the ultimate goal. Where Kant is saying, do something at an individual level. Right? Utilitarianism is also again at individual level, but you are taking greater happiness of the society into consideration. Are we clear? Yes.
So the third point says act according to the law. Suppose the law states that people can be used as a means. Then
again, here, if the law says that people can be used as a means, this will come into the picture, right? Forcing or not forcing. For example,
the law forces.
Then you are in an immoral society. Then Kantian doesn't apply there. Again, he is not saying act according to the law, so that it operates to the realm of needs. So here he is giving the description to the policy makers, not to the citizens. create a law which creates such a society. Yes. See again, remember all these things are like spectacles. You are judging a action A or a B, right? Let's say if you have done something illegal, then that is wrong according to Kant, because it's not your duty. The first deontology, your duty is to respect the law, right? So he presumes that law will give you that benchmark which will be good for the society, or else lawmakers have to modify it. Yes. Now I hope any questions from Kant. Yes.
We need to apply all the three, like when we are applying.
Again, we don't see that in real life scenario whatsoever, right? Like it's very difficult to see all these three things in one case study or one scenario. Next to the impossible. Yes, most of the times we fail in the first or second one itself. Or worst case scenario, it doesn't pass the second one. And this is a bit confusing, but please remember, everybody satisfies everybody goals, but that should be for the greater society. So that is where the quote comes from, right? In law, a man is guilty if he violates the right of others. But in ethics, the guilt is only of thinking of doing so. The moment I think something manipulative towards Santosh, that itself is crime. If that is modified, whatever outcome is there, it will be good. According to Kant, exactly. Yes or no? First of all, my direction is supposed to be in the right place. It's more about intent. It's more about moral intent. Intent is everything. Yes or no? Moral intent. And disregards the consequence. So just remember, understand this. Kant doesn't bother about you lying, whether the person is dying or not. Kant is only bothered about your thought, your action. Again, it's more about thought, right? Intent. Intent is everything. Yes.
So it doesn't leave any room for error for the person, individual.
That is why it is called as absolutism, right? So that is why it is not accepted as a ethical standard. It is severely criticized for so many issues. So he himself has accepted that there are so many problems with his own maxims, because what is good sometimes may be bad, or that can be universalized. Yes.
This question, like it is bold, it is in bold letters, that even applies in the ancient Egypt, like during the before period of Kali Yuga, let's say. So even thinking wrong.
Religious doctrine. So you are bringing in divine commandment theories, like God has said this or religion said this. So that is fine, yeah. Again, where did he get that idea? He doesn't say that God has given you obligations, but he promotes rational thinking. Kant is all about rationality, not about emotions or religion. So what is the most simple important thing? Reasoning, right? Reasoning keeps us sane. So if you think wrong, probably will do something wrong. So your intent itself is wrong. Yes. Say you are tomorrow an IPS officer. You have a duty to do. Your intent is what? To develop the public trust for welfare maximization. To do your duty by following rules and regulations. There is no relativism. There is no subjectivism. It's purely objectivism. If someone says do this, you will do that. Yes or no? So if everybody is that morally upright, then society will automatically take care of itself. But that doesn't happen in the society, right? Everybody tries to manipulate others. People will use others as a means rather than an end in itself. That leads to a lot of problems. Okay. Now again, as I told you, there are no direct questions about Kant, or there are no direct questions about utilitarianism or anything. Ethics case studies are in a whole different level. But to arrive there, we should not fall into the trap of relativisms. Okay. At the same time, we should not be absolutists. Sometimes absolute paths are not good for the society. Yes or no? Right? So we will synthesize all these discussions and conclude them. Yes. Any questions from today's discussion?
How can we bring it into the picture? How can we know what artificiality means when we don't understand the related aspect?
That is what I told you, right? For example, Universal Declaration of Human Rights are no nuclear weapons. Yes, non-proliferation of weapons. All these are universal ethical standards, right? We are trying to protect the entire human race.
But that is our moral. Like only India is striving for it actually. But most countries are
India is also saying we will uphold no first use nuclear policy and we will not use nuclear weapons against non-nuclear countries. So we are also adhering to the international practices or international ethical values. Just we are not doing it in the way you want me to do. End is same. Roads are different.
Sir, in second maxim, taxation of rich or that line is it right according to the Kant or it's wrong?
It's a criticism to Kant's second maxim. Taxation of the rich is not a bad thing for the society, right? So we are not using them as a means to an end.
But according to Kant, it is.
According to Kant, it's totally wrong.
And then if it is wrong, then by using third maxim, we can bring out a loss, right?
Again, taxation of rich is a criticism to the second maxim. According to Kant, it is not correct. Don't worry, we will. I will modify the notes and I will give you better examples if need be. So, for understanding sake, as I told you, we are not here to discuss philosophy, right? Like, there is no point in discussing all these things, because when you see actual case studies, you will say, "Sir, why did you teach all those things?" Because you won't be using any of these things. But the thing is, without understanding these, as I told you, it's very difficult for you. You will slip into the relativism. Without realizing, you will slip into the relativism. Without realizing, you will start creating your own universal doctrines. Right? So all these things are not in your hands. You can, as a district collector, you cannot create a universal standard. Probably you will be borderline to subjectivism. It's very difficult to control ourselves in that particular time, because relativism comes to us very naturally. Subjectivism comes to us very naturally. Clear? Yes. Okay, then from tomorrow, Thursday to Friday, like today is Thursday, like Friday, Saturday, DNA, again Monday we will start with ethics, right? Okay then, see you tomorrow.